Welcome to the Just a Thought YouTube channel. This video is the first in the series of Why So Common Sense. The subject of today's video is the statement, "The rich get richer and the poor get poorer." This political tagline has been chosen for two reasons. First, its complexity is relatively minimal to other subjects that I wish to discuss in this series. Secondly, it allows me to further define semantically what is seen as common sense. So I'll start off with saying that common sense on this channel is understood as a belief, ideal, or perspective that is, whether verbally or non-verbally, thought of as correct and logical. It does not require someone to say it is common sense to be common sense, but instead agreed upon as true by merely accepting it as fact in any discussion involving it. Now, on to the tagline itself. I thought I'd give a brief explanation of the occurrence and the situation you might hear this tagline. For those of you who do not know, America has two parties that are primary in almost every election and every political decision. That is the Democratic and the Republican Party. The Democratic Party leans towards progressive viewpoints and generally holds a worldview that is more unconstrained in the alignment of the spectrum written in Thomas Sowell's book, The Conflict of Visions. The Republican Party is typically more conservative and has a worldview that aligns more with the constrained vision on the spectrum. The reason why it's specifically a spectrum is beliefs can range anywhere in between the two, but constrained versus unconstrained are the polar opposites. The use of the phrase, "the rich get richer and the poor get poorer," is used typically through the Democratic Party as an economic statement for the encouragement of higher taxes upon citizens who belong in a higher tax bracket. This is not to say that the tax bracket should stay the same, but instead increase from where it is at whatever point of time they are making that statement. The Republican Party often responds to this with the statement that the rich are getting richer, but the poor are also getting richer simultaneously. And using that statement, they will advocate for either maintaining the current level of taxation on the upper brackets, or will encourage a lowering of the current tax percentage that is on the higher bracket. However, the point of this video is not to debate which is right between the two, but is instead to look at what both parties agree on, and that is the nonverbal acquiescence of the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer being a negative thing. The Republican Party will say that the statement is not true, and that's why we don't have to worry about it, but will still acquiesce that the statement would be an issue to worry about, while the Democratic Party would say that the statement is true, and as such, we should worry about it. For this breaking down of common sense, we are going to assume the statement is true. However, before I dive into deconstructing some of the principles that are shallower, that uphold this statement as common sense, I'd like to add a few guidelines. First, we are going to assume there is no corruption. That means that there is no bribery occurring between the government and businesses or just rich individuals in order to ensure that the rich are getting richer. Secondly, we are going to assume nothing illegal has been done, meaning the rich are not smuggling drugs to get their wealth or any other criminal act, but is instead through the market and producing something that is bought that they accumulate their wealth. And with those bits of clarification out of the way, I'd like to begin our dive. First step is the idea that the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer would be bad for the nation. Infrastructure speaking, the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer would actually benefit the nation. The rich getting richer means more money accumulates with them, and that is very important to note, because taxation differs based on how much money or net worth is equated to you. Let's think of this in an analogy. A poor person gets paid $10. A rich person gets paid $100. However, for this specifically, we're just going to look at $10 of the $100 he made. If the government were to tax this, they'd tax the rich person at about 50% and take $5 of the $10. They'd tax the poor person at 20% and get about $2 of those $10. Overall, the rich person will still have $50 left compared to the $8 left if we're looking at their total income. But for the same amount of value, the rich person gets taxed more. And more specifically, more of their money goes to the government. The money that finances infrastructure, public services, and military power comes from taxes. So, if more money were to accumulate into the hands of the rich, the value of the dollar for the government would be higher. Think about it this way. If we were to take the $10, not even the $10, if we were to take $5 that the poor person made and we gave it to the rich person to add on to their overall income, of that $5, $2.50 would go to the government, meaning that with just half the amount of money that the poor person had, the rich person would pay more in taxes than the poor person would with 100% of their income. This is also seen, notably, in the fact that in today's economic system of America, the rich pay the majority of taxes. Not the majority per capita, but the majority, period. The financing will allow the government to increase their tax revenue. Now, whether that infrastructure gets built up is left to the efficiency of the government. However, the finances would be there, and would only increase as the rich accumulated more wealth. Secondly, we have the economic ecosystem. With the poor getting poorer, one might say that the ability to consume as consumers would harm the economy. But that isn't necessarily the case. China is a good example. Most of the economic power is within the hands of the very top elite. And yet their economy is not only thriving, it is slowly surpassing America's, which had been on the top for so many decades. One part in this is the fact that international corporations and mega conglomerates can tap into foreign countries' consumers to get their revenue. You as a consumer might find some of the choices in a TV show, video game, or food product to be strange. It differs from what you would expect. This is often because they are trying to attract foreign consumers. Simultaneously with the domestic consumers, we see many companies target quantity over quality to reach even the lowest income bracket. Wendy's and McDonald's are notoriously cheap. They have great deals, and you can get a large amount of food for only a little bit of cash. Granted, is their food quality the highest? No. However, because of the accessibility of it, it will still even reach the lower income brackets and tap into that consumer market. Now, as my third point, I'll touch upon fairness. Fairness would be the idea that it is not fair for some small percentage of the country to live a luxurious lifestyle, while the rest would be left to pick up the scraps. I've purposely used emotive terms there to try and better convey the intent that bringing up fairness has. Because, in its entirety, fairness is subjective. Whether based in other countries or even different parts of your own, fairness looks different for everyone. In many parts of the globe, people have to share rooms with their extended family members. You will have small houses the size of apartments containing grandparents, parents, uncles, cousins, and more, all grouped together. In first world countries, different towns, even when right next to each other, will have different levels of development, whether the structures of houses being cleaner and having a firmer foundation, or whether it is a lower crime rate. Fairness is subjective to all, because even the higher tax bracket will not always experience what you would say as fairness. Domestic abuse, childhood trauma, abandonment, unfulfilling life, inability to make connections to people since money gets in the way. While these may seem just complaining of the weak to have problems stemming from money, many people will kill themselves over the lack of emotional connection available. A famous example of someone who sadly ended their life due to internal mental troubles is Robin Williams. He was successful, well-respected, and beloved by many. He was a movie star, and he was a comedian. His wealth was also quite extensive due to his commercial success. Fairness is subjective. You can find people who still live in a tribal society, having joy in the company of others, more so than a person driving a Ferrari. So to bring up fairness when it is completely subjective to the time, the place, the people, is inadequate to try and justify an economic policy that works on objective resource states. Now, those are the 3 points that I will end this video with, and I hope that the discussion at the end was not too morbid and did not cause any discomfort. I ask that down below you let me know, and others who might see this video, whether you think this is common sense because it is sensible, or common sense because it's so commonly said. Please remember, when getting into a conversation with anyone in the comments, that no progress in thought will take place in criticizing the person. Do not go after the character of the person, but instead break down with consideration their opinions and views. If you enjoyed this video format, and if you enjoyed the content of this video, please hit the like button. And if you wish to stay up to date for any more videos like this, for a chance to either be challenged yourself or just participate in a conversation, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. And with that, my friends, I will see you on the next exploration.